Welcome to Marketplace Tech Bytes. It's our weekly roundup of some of the big stories in tech and maybe some you missed. I'm Meghan McCarty, Carino. This week, Meta is launching its own dedicated AI assistant. Insurer Blue Shield reports a massive data leak. And what the first 100 days of the Trump administration have meant for the healthcare startup scene. Here to dig into all that is our regular contributor, Christina Farr at Manatt Health. Hey, Christina, good to see you.
So good to see you again, Meghan.
So we're going to kick things off like we always do with our bite of the week. This is a number that gives us some insight into the week in tech. So Christina, what number do we need to know this week?
Well, I picked a small number. I picked 600. And this is just related to a story that popped into my inbox this morning that I just thought was fun. 600 gold coins discovered in the Czech Republic dating back to the 1800s, now worth roughly $340,000, and nobody has a clue why they have just been sitting there for hundreds of years, and nobody has claimed them. These coins were discovered by hikers and just reported by Popular Science.
So interesting. Well, speaking of gold coins, many gold coins being exchanged in big tech this week. We're hearing about all of the gold coins that big tech is collecting.
Gold is back.
Yes, gold is the hot commodity these days. It's a safe harbor. But big week in big tech. Several companies reported earnings this week, including Meta, which gave investors plenty to be happy about. The parent company of Facebook and Instagram. It also held an AI developers conference this week called LlamaCon. Meta's large language model goes by the name Llama, so that's where we get that. But Meta is now launching its own dedicated AI app, sort of like ChatGPT. Christina, what did you make of this announcement?
Clearly, Meta is getting very into the AI craze, as is every big tech company. It's funny, every time I read about llamas these days, I think of Llama Needs a Haircut, which is the new fun children's book I have to read every single night. But I was reading about this kind of new AI assistant, which is really fueled by voice. You can talk to it, you can ask it about what you should do that day, the weather, the traffic. And it just reminded me so much of that movie, Her. It really feels like we're moving in that direction where we wake up in the morning and we don't turn around and speak to our spouse. We talk to Meta and the AI assistant that it's building. It feels more like a companion than anything I've seen before.
That is interesting because one thing that sets Meta apart from a lot of the other sort of companies that are playing in the space is that it has this deep history in social media. It has collected a lot of personal data about the people that use its various social media platforms. It is the biggest social media company in the world. And I wonder what, that might mean for, how this AI assistant might be different.
It's absolutely right. I mean, having that aspect of social, I think, gives Meta an obvious path to do something like this. And as you see Facebook becoming less relevant to Gen Z, less relevant to millennials, and just kind of feeling like the platform that maybe our parents use increasingly, they need to find new angles with this audience. And I think that explains a lot of why they're doing this in an AI context. I do wonder how this might be used with that same population I mentioned, the sort of senior population in the context of loneliness.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see Facebook thinking about that, especially given just all of this research that's come out about how loneliness is essentially the new smoking, just because of how it's linked to such negative healthcare consequences. So I could see that being an interesting angle there for Meta.
All right. Well, we want to dig into a little bit more health tech. And earlier this month, the insurance giant Blue Shield of California notified millions of customers of a potential data breach. Now, I know we all get these notifications all the time these days. This one was a little different. This wasn't, a malicious actor getting access to data. It was actually Blue Shield itself discovered it had sort of inadvertently shared protected health information of about almost 5 million members in California with Google through its use of Google's analytics platform. Christina, why is this so important?
Yeah, it really, in my mind, speaks to the need for us as a country to be thinking much more deeply around this issue of health data and privacy in the world that we live in. A lot of the rules were written at a time before insurance companies and other healthcare companies were really using a lot of social media platforms to reach their target population. And there brings up questions around what information should be protected, what information now is just already out there to the extent that consumers don't feel as much of a need for it to be held as private as it is, and then how do you balance all of that with user experience? So to me, this is important news, but I think it also brings up questions around how might we design privacy policy related to our health information in the time that we're living in.
Right, because one of the big concerns here is that Google, through its ad business, could have been using some of this very sensitive health data, as granular as, what kinds of claims were being filed, for individual members, to then turn around and use that data for advertising, very targeted advertising, to those folks. I mean, we reached out to Google and Blue Shield for comment on this. Google said businesses, not Google, manage the data they collect and must inform users about its collection and use. By default, any data sent to Google Analytics for measurement does not identify individuals, and we have strict policies against collecting private health information or advertising based on sensitive information. Basically, Blue Shield owns the data, and Google said it would delete it at any time if Blue Shield asked. Blue Shield has said that it severed this connection with Google Analytics and Google Ads in January of 2024 and has asked Google to stop using this member data. But Christina, I mean, this isn't the first time something like this has happened in digital health. And I'm guessing it might not be the last time until, policies like the ones you're talking about come into play.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to a time when there was a big blow up related to Google's partnership with the health system Ascension,
Hmm.
again, related to this issue of patient health information and the lack of just clear privacy rules and policies that really are relevant to the time that we live in. There's been issues with the social media platforms and this kind of, healthcare related advertising. People are going online and searching for a related just symptom search. It's just one of the most common ways in which people use the internet is to find out information about their health. And increasingly, they're using AI for this. And so,
Right.
what are the right steps that need to be taken to protect people? So, in the old days, like you used to get penalized for having pre-existing conditions. That's no longer the case. But I think people still have a lot of fears that this information shouldn't end up in the wrong hands, whether it's life insurance, whether it's your employer or any other area in which you don't want health information spilling out. And so I do think that we need to, like I said, modernize and just rethink some of the rules to protect people because it's very haphazard right now.
So interesting what you mentioned about using AI in that fashion now. I mean, many people, have been uploading even radiology reports, to kind of have the chatbot break down in layman's terms what they're seeing. Elon Musk on X was explicitly telling users to do this. So it does open up, I think, a very big gray area in terms of what is going to happen to that data.
And people are collecting data all the time using wearable devices as
Right.
well. I mean, there's a constant explosion now of just consumer generated health information.
Right.
And so how protected is that? If it's your choice to generate that information, what rights do you then have? And that to me, that's a very gray area.
Mhm. All right, now we want to zoom out to look at the landscape for health tech innovation in general And have you take the pulse on how, venture capital firms and startups in this space have been responding to some of the developments over the first 100 days of the Trump administration? Of course, of course, we have had the tariffs. That is probably the biggest factor in the economy. How have those been affecting your world, Christina?
Well, as with anything, it depends. It's a very mixed bag. If you're in the world of biotech or medical device, it's very possible that the tariffs have been a negative impact for your business because of all the overseas manufacturing that you do. In theory, a lot of healthcare services, health systems, a lot of the healthcare industry is inherently a very domestic
Mm,
industry. So I've also spoken to economists who said, actually, healthcare is a pretty decent bet at this moment in time, just on a macro level. And then there's the area that I invest in, which is really the intersection of health and technology, emerging companies. And I think for those companies, it's mostly been a very difficult 100 days because just uncertainty is bad for startups. It's bad for the venture ecosystem. If venture capital firms can't raise the same amount of money as they could a few years ago when the economy felt like it was booming, then of course that has a residual knock-on effect for startups who find it more difficult to raise money and therefore really just challenging to grow and scale.
And actually, last time we had you on, we talked about what at the time was the impending IPO of this app Hinge Health. I understand since we last spoke, they have maybe changed their plans on doing an IPO.
I don't have any inside knowledge, but I would be surprised by any company continuing with an IPO at this moment in time.
Of course, it's not only the tariffs that are causing uncertainty. There's also been this massive pullback of funding for scientific research. There's been immigration crackdowns on international students. How important is, the health of that kind of university research pipeline to innovation, to the startup world?
It couldn't be more important. I mean, so much of the innovation that I see every day and have been fortunate enough to invest in has come out of university labs that just require grant funding to be able to do this vital research. And I've heard it kind of likened to a potential brain drain. I'm talking to people in the scientific and medical community every day who are just terrified about their future prospects. I've read surveys that indicate that those sorts of people are looking to move to other countries, which would again be very negative for the U.S. So all in, not a great moment for the scientific community, and just even beyond funding cuts. I think we've all been reading about eroding trust in science and in expertise. And I think that is something that, again, is just having that impact. The public doesn't recognize the importance as much as it used to of this kind of innovation.
All right, Christina Farr, Managing Director at Manatt Health. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Meghan.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for Marketplace Tech Bytes Week in Review. Daniel Shin produced this episode. I'm Meghan McCarty Carino. This is APM.